What's up there, Workforce? Chris here with WorkToGame, and I wanted to talk about my first few weeks in Shadowbringers, and then I kind of want to know what you guys were going to do first. It's a question we had a chance to ask Miztech on the podcast this week. That'll, of course, air on Monday. There's a live letter today, and so I know Bryan and I are focused a lot on how that might change this plan, but I wanted to go ahead and share with you just the same what my plan is. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the MSQ. As I've been kind of finishing up, going through people's interviews and stuff, I see that Yoshi P has said himself that he thinks this is the best story yet. He wants people to slow down. My intention is to, at the minimum, slow down for the cutscenes. I really want to take this expansion a little more seriously when it comes to lore, but knowing that I still have gaps from last time, I have a history of you know, getting bored with story and wanting to just push through to endgame. It's just going to be an effort on my part. I don't know that I will naturally slow down or anything like that, and my goal will be to have my warrior through MSQ by the 30th. And so that gives me the 28th when that time happens, and I should have that done within a couple days there. After that, I'm going to jump to Gunbreaker. I'm hoping to have that done by about the 4th. And then Dancer, which I'm hoping to have done by the 8th, because that gets me those 3 done in time for when I think that the new trial will drop. The new trial will drop, and then we will have roughly another 2 weeks until Savage drops. And so in that time, I'd like to level up my first Gatherer. The reason for that, I'll probably go with Botany, is because they're a really great way to make a lot of money at the beginning of an expansion. And so, you know, if I want to kind of test out some of the guild theories I've had and things like that, Capital would be an important thing to have. And this is just a really easy time to reach out and make several million gold. And so my plan is to try to see if I can't grind up a little bit of money each day, you know, once I have kind of those first 2 or 3 jobs out. And that is really going to be my plan. I have a wedding that I'm going to be out of town. We should just be gone the day. It's not very far. But, you know, it'll probably take me till about the 16th to do the Gatherer. And you know, and then each time from then on, I'll be spending a little time each day gathering, so that I don't feel like I have to do it all at once. But each day I'll probably just pick a couple of key items and keep those stocked on the market board, so as long as they're still up, I won't have to farm them. If they go, you know, of course, if they sell, then maybe I'll probably try to have like 1 or 2 stacks of each thing listed, and I'll just go gather those up, and probably the new maps as well. Keep those consistently stocked on the market board. As soon as those become available, they won't be available on launch, but maps typically start out very high priced and work their way down. And so when they first come out, it's worth gathering one every day and selling them. And after that, I just sell them if I have them. And so that's going to be my first 2 weeks. That's really my plan, and it's a pretty reasonable pace. If I get ahead, then of course I'll just keep working down this list. If I get behind, I'll just keep working down this list. But that's my intention. That's kind of what feels like it would be a good pace, and based, you know, around the time that I get to spend with you guys. We plan on spending a lot of time streaming. We've been working a lot on getting my streaming set up, and Bryan's streaming set up on the same page, so that you guys get a consistent experience from us. And honestly, a lot of that is thanks to the subscribers and the tips and donations that we've gotten on Twitch. So thank you guys so much to those of you that support us over on Twitch. Twitch, we are found at WorkToGame with the number 2 instead of TO, and we really appreciate it. There are plenty of you that just support us on occasion with your Amazon Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you can actually go support a streamer on Twitch each month, just one, for free. We appreciate those of you that have chosen to share that with us, but if not with us, go pick your favorite streamer. There's plenty of good 14 content creators and other creators for whatever game you may be interested in, and that's a pretty cool way to take advantage of something that you already have if you have Amazon Prime. So once I finish my first 2 weeks, my plan is to go and just work down the rest of my list based on the Final Fantasy Shadowbringers draft that Bryan and I did. So I'll do probably White Mage next, so that I have a healer, so that I can kind of round out the roles. And then I'll do Black Mage. Ideally, Black Mage would be done by the 30th, maybe as early as the 23rd, if I'm somehow able to accelerate this pace. Black Mage is one that I literally leveled through ARR, through Heavensward, through Stormblood as my first class, and so I'd like to just have that one for a nostalgia factor, and that Dancer would be my only range DPS at that point, so I'd like to pick up Black Mage and get a good feel for the content. And then I'll probably go into Astrologian. I've had an interest in getting back into healing. I healed a lot, raid healed and things like that in World of Warcraft, and I've kind of taken a break from that for the last several years, but I'm ready to get back into healing a lot in 14, and then I'll just be finishing out the rest of my list. So probably Dragoon next, then maybe pick up Fisher to kind of break this up a little bit, and then Bard, and then Blue. Blue, I assume that should be around the time we should be looking about like 5.2. So I'm assuming by then that if Blue Mage hasn't been increased in level cap, that I'll go ahead and level, finish up the last few skills, work on my Masked Carnival, and get that prepped so that I'm in a good spot to have guides out to you guys when they do increase the cap. So I left it down at the bottom of my list, but a lot of that's based around like, as soon as they release more content for Blue, I want to focus Blue. And then finish out what's missing. So it'll be my miners, my miner, just the one, and then crafters. And then at that point, I would be able to start looking at other jobs, the jobs that Bryan did. As I do these in this order, my plan is to make guides. We have still kind of been fiddling with the template, but what I think the template's going to look like is an introduction video. That'll be a lot of like just going over the tool tips, going over what things mean, talking about phrases like recast time, talking about how that means they might interact with each other when you start to see combos, and then a second video that goes into rotation. So I know a lot of you won't need that first video if you've played this game before, but there are a lot of new players around Shadowbringers, so we want each job to have an introduction that's really geared at beginners. And then a secondary video that will talk about the rotation, the information that just the general population as a whole is actually really hungry for. Once we have a rotation, it's time to talk about layout. Because Bryan and I have split the jobs up, I will be doing keyboard and controller guides, and he will be doing keyboard and controller guides. We historically haven't done a lot of keyboard guides, but we think that would just add one more step of value as people start to do layout and things like that, especially because like I play a little bit weird. I don't play with WASD, I play with ESDF. Because that frees up some things on the pinky, and so we can kind of take a chance to talk about things like that, which will move into the next video, which is any macros available for the job. So if there are any macros that might make the job a little bit easier, those could be macros based around its role, those could be macros based around different abilities that it has. If it has a raise, does that raise call out who its target is, things like that. So there's just a lot of little quality of life things. Some of those may be redundant across the role, so you may notice that if you watch all of our tank videos, that there's some macros that Bryan and I each use for our tanks that are going to be in each of those, so that you just watch the series for the classes you play and you don't miss out on anything by not watching the other 16 battle class videos. After that, we can talk about kind of just opinion pieces. So that's where you start to talk about the things that I think are most commonly missed by that class, the things that really make that class unique in combat, and how I feel about that class overall. That may be broken up into 1, 2, or 3 videos. We'll just see how that ends up shaping up, because we'll want it to be consistent across all the jobs. So even if one of those is a fairly light video, we just want each job to have the exact same number of videos, and so that like, oh, I really like this video for this job, let me go check that out for this other job. They're all named the same. Our thumbnails should kind of have a theme so that it's really easy to find those. They'll probably put them each in their own playlist. And then we can start to do tier lists. So the reason we divided all this up is that you'll notice as I went through my pacing, that means that I could easily, in a perfect world, be done with a fair bit of this by the end of July, definitely August. So as I start to look at things like, do I want to play WoW Classic, August 27th? Ideally, I've moved through most, if not all, of my battle classes by then. That also means that on a 2-year cycle, that we were able to get the guides out, ideally within that kind of first 90 days as much as possible. It doesn't guarantee every job will go out in that time, but that's our goal. Because if we can get them all in that first 90, 120 days, then that lets those guides live that full lifespan, and it means that anybody that has those jobs gets to wait as minimal time as possible before we have a guide series out there. I'm sure there will be other creators working down in a different order, so ideally you can find a creator that you enjoy their content that maybe tackles your job a little bit sooner if you're sitting down at the bottom of our lists, and And, you know, you can check ours out and see if we say anything different when it gets there. So that is kind of our plan. That is really, well, at least my plan. And so Bryan and I, we've roughly talked over the plan. Then he said, you know, why don't you make that video? I'll make that video. We'll compare notes after that and get both of our thoughts out there. So he should be publishing a video around this time. If it's live at the time this one goes up. I have not seen it yet because I wanted to get my thoughts out there. And then we're going to compare notes and make a plan together. So yeah, the tier list should be really fun. We're going to try to do those together because we both have a little bit from each role. We both have a little bit, you know, we both have half the classes, and we're going to try to update those tier lists a little more often, maybe each time they do a battle system change. So if at 5.3 we have a bunch of battle system balances, does that change things? We'll put out another tier list, and it'll be a cool chance for us to sit and collaborate and compare, because we'll each be responsible for half the jobs for the duration of this expansion, which might mean I don't get to level any of the other jobs this expansion, because I'm going to want to try to do my best to stay up on the classes that I'm responsible for. So hopefully you guys find that interesting. I would love to know what you guys want to do first. What do you, I mean, do you go through the story? If you do you go through it multiple times on different alts or anything like that? Where does gathering and crafting and like making money fit into that? Is any of it based around the announcements for what gets put in 5.1? Like if we get Blue Mage in 5.1, do you go ahead and pick up Blue at that time? You know, is there, if the rebuilding of the city of Ishgard ends up being something early in the expansion because they want it to have more length than typically where we see like a beast tribe or something for gathering come in a little bit later in the expansion, is that something that, you know, would make those shift a little higher up your list? You know, what are the things you're looking for? What are the things you hope make it into 5.1, 5.2? And how does that change the pace at which you kind of go through this first 2 weeks, this first month, and kind of this first 90 days? So pace yourself, clean out your inventory, get your quests clear, take a break if you need to. We will see you on the 28th in game, and this is going to be a heck of a ride. My name is Chris with WorkToGame. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I look forward to seeing your content plan down in the below, just to see what people are going to go for first, what their focus is going to be, because it's just interesting to see when everybody gets access to an incredible buffet, what is the thing that they just have to make sure is on that first plate. So have a great day, and I'll see you next time.
Oh, hello. Were you expecting somebody? Chuck-like? Well, I'll never tell where he is. Only that if you want to see your friend again, you should totally hit subscribe. And maybe even a thumbs up. Thumbs down don't make me happy. And when I'm not happy, something happens to Chuck. I'm not joking. Goodbye. Subscribe. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. See you next time.